I watched a movie last night. Bring Her Back is about a brother and sister discovering a terrifying ritual at their new foster mom's home. So this movie follows Andy and Piper, and we watch as they lose their dad tragically and now have to get placed in a foster home. Andy is almost 18, and the foster mom doesn't want to take him in. He thinks he's too old. He's a troublemaker. He's got a past. But he wants to stay with Piper because Piper is legally blind, and he's been taking care of her all his life. And so he doesn't want to split up with her, and he wants to take over guardian in 3 months when he becomes 18 and can do so. So the kids are placed in this foster home of the mother, the lady from Shape of Water, and she has already a child there who she claims is her nephew, and the child is mute, bald-headed, disheveled, and it doesn't speak to anybody, and she's just like, oh, don't worry about him, he's always been like that since my daughter died a couple years ago, I can't remember. And so the children, Andy and Piper, kind of have to navigate living in a new foster home, and Andy is trying to navigate the loss of his father and how he's feeling with that, and the story goes from there. If you like the movie Weapons, you might like this movie, and if you like the movie Flowers in the Attic, you might also like this movie. I really liked how this movie showed grief and how they showed residual trauma, and I also really liked how they showed guilt from that grief and that trauma, even though these people that were affected by the deaths in their family had nothing to do with how their loved ones died. I just really liked how they played a big part of that without necessarily having the characters speak about their feelings, but just showing us how they go through their day by day, and how literally everything as simple as taking a shower can affect them. I thought this movie did that in such a good way, and I really liked that because I don't feel like people understand that people grieve in such different ways. I mean, some people find laughter in it, some people find pain in it, some people, you know what I mean? It just, the way that they did it, they did a good job. It's interesting to me that this movie decided to be a horror because the A story was just so strong about like the two kids having to deal with the death of their father, and the son being estranged from that father, but the girl was being like had a really healthy relationship with that father. I really liked how it talked about the foster mother and showing her how she dealt with the death of her daughter and how she felt responsible for the death of her daughter, and how she's kind of replacing her daughter with these foster kids that she's taking in. I thought that's all we needed. I thought this movie could have just survived on that, because everything else in the movie that obtained to horror was kind of an afterthought, and I just didn't think it was necessary. I thought the horror elements in this movie were just placed in this movie just so that it can be considered a horror drama. I really just don't think the story needed it, because it felt really gimmicky. We would be in like these really heartwarming, heartfelt moments about like how these kids were grieving and their backstories, and then the next thing you know, we have this little bald-headed kid in the background chewing on knives. It kind of just took us out of the element, you know what I mean? I really wish that this story in this movie would have just been a suspenseful drama and not tried to play up the horror element, because I feel like they could have made the same story just as good, just as well without the horror. And I'm a horror girl, you know what I mean? Horror. The horror in this movie just didn't feel authentic. It just felt like it was placed there. It just felt like it was an afterthought. It didn't feel like we were watching this story based around the horror. I just felt like the horror was peppered in because somebody wrote this story and then was just like, you know what would make this better? Weird children. You know what I mean? I just didn't feel like it was necessary. I felt like the acting, everybody did a really good job acting. I just felt like the script was written so well that we just didn't need it to be a horror. Big fan of possession movies, and that's probably why I didn't feel like the horror in this story was necessary or worked, because I feel like with possession story, it ends in one or two ways. Either the demon or the evil spirit gets out of the body and they live happily ever after, or the demon or the evil spirit jumps into somebody else and then we jump cut to the credit scene. I don't feel like possession stories are very original anymore, and I just don't think that necessary. And I feel like in this movie, they didn't do anything new. They used recycled tropes like old VHS tapes with exorcisms that we've seen, and stumbling upon chalk outlines of circles and shit. Like, I just felt like this movie was just so much, the story that was written was just so much better than what they gave themselves credit for. And it just felt like they needed to advertise to bring in a different audience. I don't know. It just didn't work. It didn't work for me. Have you seen this movie? What did you think? Please leave a comment below because I would love to hear your thoughts on this movie. I'm Hey Shante, and what movie did you watch last night?